For 3 years, he never said a word. Then the Navy SEALs came, with a flag. For 3 years, she simply poured his coffee and smiled. He never spoke, never complained, never even gave his name. He always sat at table 7, always paid in cash, always left before the morning rush. Nobody noticed him except Sarah. She saw something different. And then one morning, he didn't show up. Instead, 6 Navy SEALs walked in, with a folded flag and a wooden box, and what they revealed would shake the entire town. This is not just a story. It's a lesson in quiet dignity and what happens when kindness meets history. Let's begin. The Silver Pine Diner didn't look like much from the outside. A faded blue awning, neon lights that buzzed in the rain, and booths with upholstery patched more times than anyone could count. But inside, it held the heartbeat of a small town that time mostly forgot. Located at the crossroads of Highway 12 and Miller's Creek, the diner opened at 5 a.m. sharp every day. That's when the first wave of mill workers, night shift nurses, and truckers stumbled in for caffeine and calm before the chaos of another day. And that's where Sarah Langley worked. Single mother of 2, always smiling, always tired. But she was known for one thing above all. She saw people, even when they didn't want to be seen. He came in every weekday at 5:40 a.m. Sharp, not 5:39, not 5:41. Always 5:40. He wore the same thing every time. A faded navy peacoat, dark slacks, black boots that looked military but worn down by time. A watch with a cracked face, and a grey wool cap pulled low, even in summer. He never ordered anything new, just the usual, which meant 2 eggs, scrambled dry toast, black coffee, and he always sat at table 7 in the far right corner, where he could see both the entrance and the window. At first, the other staff whispered about him. Creepy guy. Might be homeless. Maybe ex-con. But Sarah didn't listen. She noticed the small things, how he unfolded his napkins slowly, as if it mattered. How he cleaned his cutlery before eating, even though it was already clean. How he tipped the exact same amount every day, $4.27. Always folded, always placed precisely under the salt shaker. She never asked his name, he never offered it, but she called him Sir, and somehow that mattered to him. 3 years. That's 780 mornings, 780 scrambled eggs, 780 cups of coffee, and not one conversation. But there was comfort in that rhythm. Sarah came to expect his presence, like the sunrise or the coffee machine's first hiss. Some mornings, he would give a tiny nod when she set down his plate. Once, when her hands were shaking from a rough morning with her kids, he gently pushed a $10 tip across the table, without a word. Still, no name, no past, no future, only one moment broke the pattern. One day, his handkerchief fell to the floor. As Sarah bent to pick it up, she saw something that made her pause. Embroidered in dark navy thread were 3 small initials. TRS. Below that, an emblem she didn't recognize, an eagle clutching a trident and anchor. She thought it was military, but she didn't ask. She just folded it, handed it back, and smiled. Monday. Cold, grey, and quiet. Sarah clocked in at 4:58 like always. Set the creamers, prepped the toast, wiped down table 7. By 5:30, the regulars were streaming in. By 5:40, she glanced toward the door. Nothing. By 5:45, still empty. By 6 a.m., her chest began to tighten. He'd never been late. Not once. Maybe he's sick, she whispered to herself. Or maybe he's gone. She didn't realize how much it mattered. Until that moment. She kept watching the door all morning. But table 7 remained empty. So she did something strange. She poured a cup of black coffee, set it down at his place, and whispered quietly, "See you tomorrow, sir." But tomorrow came, and still, no one walked in at 5:40 Thursday, 7:08 a.m. The diner had just started to calm after the rush. Sarah was refilling sugar dispensers when she heard it, the unmistakable growl of a military-grade SUV. She looked out and saw 2 black Suburbans, government plates. Doors opened, and out stepped 6 men in navy dress. Every head in the diner turned. They didn't smile, they didn't joke. They walked with a purpose, right to the counter. The man in front, a tall officer with graying temples and hard eyes, spoke first. "Excuse me, ma'am, are you Sarah Langley?" Her hands froze on the sugar jar. "Yes, I'm Sarah." The man nodded. "I'm Commander Eli Monroe. We're here on behalf of Master Chief Thomas R. Sullivan. I believe he sat at table 7 every morning for the last 3 years." Sarah's lips parted. Her heart thudded in her chest. "TRS, the handkerchief." "Yes," she whispered. "I knew him. I mean, he came in here every morning." The commander's face softened slightly. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small wooden box draped in an American flag. The diner went silent, and inside the box was something Sarah never could have expected. Not just a letter, not just a medal, but a truth that would shake the foundation of everything she thought she knew about the man at table 7. Stay tuned, because when she opens the box, what she finds will change her life and this town forever. If you believe kindness matters more than words, subscribe, comment one name below. Someone you miss, someone quiet, someone we should never forget. Now let's continue. The bell on the cafe door rang again at precisely 7:32 a.m. the next morning. Lucy looked up instinctively. She already knew who it would be. The man, same worn-out navy coat, same creased khakis, entered like a passing shadow. He gave a faint nod to her, then walked straight to the booth by the window. Same one as yesterday. Lucy had already started the coffee. "Morning again," she greeted, setting down the cup before he even opened his mouth. He looked at the cup, then at her. "I didn't order yet," he muttered. "You didn't have to." He hesitated, just slightly, then gave a nod of acknowledgement. "Thanks." That's all she got from him that day, just like the day before, and then the next day, and the next, and the one after that. Each day, he came in, sat at the same booth, ordered the same thing, always left a crumpled $5 bill and $1 in quarters. And each time, Lucy tried to pry open a bit more of the mystery that cloaked him like his coat. "You from around here? Did you serve? You like lemon pie? It's fresh today." Most days, he'd just nod, or give a polite, "No thanks." Sometimes, nothing. But Lucy wasn't one to give up easily. She wasn't being nosy, she just cared. Not everyone does that anymore, especially for someone who looked like he lived out of a backpack and had ghosts for company. One Thursday, just as she was topping off his coffee, she tried again. "You've got this quiet hero vibe going on, you know." He looked up sharply. His gaze caught hers, and for the first time, Lucy saw something flicker behind those tired eyes. Not annoying, not even amusement, just pain. Real, raw, unfiltered pain. And then he spoke. "Heroes don't come back," he said softly. "They stay where the noise is." And just like that, the wall was back up. He sipped his coffee and stared out the window. It wasn't long before the town noticed. People whispered. That's what they do in small towns. Everyone knows everyone. And when someone doesn't fit the mold, they get noticed. Who is he? He's here every day now. Does he sleep in the park? He doesn't talk to anyone, just to that waitress. Lucy heard it all and ignored it. She didn't care if he lived under a bridge or in a mansion. He was kind. He never complained. He tipped what he could, and he never asked for pity. But the whispers grew louder. One man even suggested the cafe should do something before business got affected. Lucy nearly threw a pie in his face. Instead, she just said, "If this cafe can't handle kindness, maybe we're not serving the right people." And the veteran kept coming. Every day, 7:32 a.m. sharp. It took nearly 6 weeks before Lucy got his name. It came by accident. He had paid with a wrinkled check that morning. His card had been declined. She noticed it as she rang it through. The signature at the bottom read, W. Carson. She didn't ask what the W stood for. She didn't push. But from then on, she started calling him Mr. Carson. He never corrected her, but she noticed, the second time she said it, his eyes softened. He had a name again. One rainy morning in November, Lucy watched through the foggy window as Mr. Carson stepped out of an old beat-up pickup truck instead of walking from the direction of the park. That was new. He held his side as he came in, slower than usual, wincing. She met him halfway, concerned about washing over her. "You all right?" "Slipped," he muttered. "Old truck bed's not built for rain." Lucy frowned. He looked paler, shakier. "You need to see a doctor," she said. "I've seen enough of those," he replied quietly. He winced as he lowered himself into the booth. That day, she brought him extra eggs. No charge. He didn't argue. Weeks turned into months. And in those months, Lucy kept track of the little things. She started keeping his booth reserved, placed his coffee before he asked, brought an extra napkin for the tremor he thought no one noticed. She learned he liked his toast a bit burnt, that he always picked out the onions, that he always sat facing the window, but never looked out for too long. And slowly, she noticed things too. The faded tattoo just under his left wrist, the way he flinched when a siren passed, the way he stared at folded American flags like they were ghosts. Once, he forgot his wallet. He came back later, flustered, apologetic. Lucy waved him off. "It's one breakfast, Mr. Carson. You've given more than enough." He looked at her for a long time that day, then nodded. "Thank you, Miss Lucy." It was the first time he said her name, but Lucy didn't know that across town, in a small P.O. box registered to a long string of numbers, a letter had just arrived. It was sealed in plain white. No return address, just stamped with one word, confidential. It was addressed not to W. Carson, but to Chief Petty Officer William Carson, USN, Ret. And the contents of that letter would change everything. The days shortened. Snow flirted with the edges of the town. By now, Mr. Carson's routine was stitched into the fabric of the diner. The regulars grew used to seeing him. Some even nodded his way. Others kept their distance. Lucy never stopped being kind. She noticed his cough had deepened. His hands shook a little more. Some days he didn't finish his food, but he always came, always smiled softly when she greeted him, always left the booth clean. And when Lucy was too busy to chat, he simply left her a note, just a napkin with a scribble. "Thanks for the coffee, W.C. The sun looks nice today. W.C. You have a kind soul. Don't lose it." W.C. Lucy kept every one of them. She pressed them in a small, leather-bound notebook she kept in her apron pocket. She never told anyone. Then, one day, he didn't show. 7:32 came. The bell over the door didn't ring. Lucy glanced out the window. Nothing. By 7:50, Her hands were trembling slightly. By 8:10, she had spilled a full pot of coffee. By 9, she stepped outside into the freezing wind, scanning the sidewalk like a soldier searching for a comrade. "Maybe he's late," another waitress said. "Or maybe he's gone." Lucy ignored her. Mr. Carson was many things, but he was never late, and he never just didn't show. By the third day, Lucy called the local VA clinic. No record. She tried the police station, the shelters, even the post office. No one knew a William Carson. No one had seen the truck. It was like he had vanished, wiped clean from the earth. The call came 2 weeks later. The local impound lot had an old truck, no plates, parked illegally on a back road. When Lucy got the call, she drove out in her rusted Honda, boots crunching over snow and salt. She knew before she even saw it. The green paint was chipped, the bumper rusted. The bed had a faded army blanket and a half-buried photo of 5 young men in uniform. And one of them was Carson, smiling, young, alive in a way she never saw in person. Lucy's breath caught in her throat. She whispered to herself, "You were someone." Inside the glove compartment, they found a plastic folder, water-damaged but intact. Inside it, dog tags, a worn military ID, a letter sealed in a plain envelope. Lucy didn't open it. She couldn't. She handed it over to the police. 4 days later, a call came in. The number was blocked. The voice on the line was firm, but respectful. "Is this Lucy Gardner?" "Yes." "This is Commander Tully from Naval Special Warfare Command. You don't know me, but I'm calling about a man named William Carson." Lucy froze. "I knew him," she whispered. "I served him breakfast every day for 3 years." There was a pause. Then the man's voice softened. "Then I owe you more than I can ever say." "What happened to him?" "He passed away 3 weeks ago, alone, in a hospice just outside town. He didn't list any family, no next of kin." Lucy covered her mouth. Her eyes stung. "But he left behind a note," the commander continued, "with instructions." "What kind of instructions?" The commander's voice turned serious. "He asked that if anything happened to him, 6 men would come find you." 2 days later, the bell on the cafe door rang at 7:32 a.m. Lucy looked up. 6 men walked in, tall, broad-shouldered, quiet. Each wore a dark jacket with a subdued patch over the heart. None of them spoke at first, but everyone in the diner fell silent. These men weren't normal. These were men used to silence. Men who had walked into enemy territory and returned with scars the world would never see. The tallest one stepped forward. "You, Lucy?" She nodded, heart pounding. He reached into his coat and handed her a leather-wrapped bundle. "This was from Chief Carson," he said. "He said you'd understand." Inside the bundle was a letter, yellowed, folded, handwritten in the same blocky style from every napkin note. Lucy sat down at the counter, hands shaking. She opened it. "Dear Lucy, you were the only person in the last 3 years who ever saw me. Not just looked at me, but saw me. You knew when I was hurting and never asked for more than I could give. You gave me back the smallest piece of my humanity: coffee, eggs, and dignity. I spent 28 years in the Navy. 22 of those were with SEAL teams. I saw things no one should see. I did things I'll never be proud of, but I did them to protect people like you. After I left, I lost my brothers. Then I lost myself. But you made a booth in a quiet diner feel like a place worth showing up to. Thank you for reminding me I was still a man. I left something for you. These 6 men will know what to do. Please don't say no. You already earned it." William Carson, Chief Petty Officer, USN, retired. Lucy read it 3 times. and when she looked up, tears sliding freely down her cheeks. The 6 seals stood at attention. Then the tall one stepped forward and said, "He left you everything." The diner went silent. All eyes on Lucy, all eyes on the 6 men. The tall seal reached into his jacket again and pulled out a small, military-grade lockbox. Heavy, black, scratched by time. He set it on the counter in front of her. "He told us," the man said, "if anything happened to him, this belonged to you. No questions asked." Lucy stared at the box. Her reflection wobbled in the scratched metal like a dream. She looked at the men. "I don't understand. Why me?" The quietest one finally spoke. His voice was raw. "Because you were the only one who didn't leave him behind." She bit her lip. They were right. Most people walked past William Carson like he was invisible. But Lucy, she never did. And Carson saw that. One of the seals reached down, entered a 6-digit code. The lock clicked. The lid creaked open. Lucy leaned in and gasped. Inside were 3 items: a thick envelope, sealed with wax, a photograph, creased, worn, and sun-bleached, and a small velvet pouch. The photo was old, faded. It showed 7 Navy SEALs standing barefoot on a beach, weapons slung, arms around each other. Younger Carson was in the middle, grinning. Lucy held it to her chest. It felt sacred. She opened the envelope next. Inside, legal papers, property deed, transfer instructions, a hand-signed letter from a law firm in San Diego. The papers were addressed to her, Lucy Gardner. And the property? A 12-acre piece of coastal land in Northern California. Oceanfront, fenced, valued at nearly $3.7 million. Lucy's hands trembled. "What is this?" The lead seal nodded once. "He bought that land 30 years ago, said it reminded him of the only place he ever felt peace." Lucy shook her head. "But why give this to me?" The seal's voice was calm, steady, like the ocean just before a storm. "Because you gave him peace in his final days, and he wanted you to know. Your kindness wasn't forgotten." Lucy opened the velvet pouch with trembling fingers. A single dog tag slid out. But it wasn't Carson's. It belonged to someone else. Lieutenant Mark Talbot, SEAL Team 6, KIA, Kandahar, 2003. On the back, scratched by hand, "For Lucy, keep seeing us." She didn't know what it meant, yet, but she held it tightly anyway, her breath caught in her throat. That night, Lucy sat alone in the booth where Carson had always sat. The napkin notes were in her lap. The seals had gone, but not before inviting her to visit the land whenever she was ready. One of them even offered to drive her out there himself. The waitress who had once worked double shifts just to keep the lights on was now the sole inheritor of something much larger than wealth, legacy, gratitude, and something no one ever expects to receive from a stranger: a life transformed. She looked out the window. A light snowfall had begun. It reminded her of the night he didn't show, but now she understood. He had shown up, just in a different way. From that day forward, no one sat in Carson's booth. Lucy placed his photo on the table, framed. Next to it, his final napkin note: "Kindness echoes longer than war ever will." WC customers began leaving notes beside it. Veterans stopped in just to look at the photo. Some saluted, some cried, but all of them understood. This wasn't just a booth, it was a sanctuary, a place where forgotten heroes were remembered, where one waitress's simple kindness lit a fire no storm could put out. 3 weeks later, Lucy stood at the edge of a dirt road, her breath forming clouds in the crisp California air. The SEAL who had driven her, Marcus, now in civilian clothes, waited by the car in respectful silence. Ahead of her was the land William Carson had left behind. 12 acres of untouched coastal beauty. Waves crashed against the rocks. Wind howled through tall evergreens. The place felt wild, but peaceful, just like him. She followed a gravel path toward a weather-worn cabin, almost invisible under the moss and pine shadows. A brass key had been taped to the back of the property deed. She used it now. The door creaked open. Dust danced in a beam of sunlight. The air smelled of cedar, salt, and memories. Inside, everything was exactly as he'd left it. Neatly arranged books, a folded American flag, and a handmade wooden table covered in journals. Dozens of them, each one marked with a year. Lucy picked one up and opened it. 1996, January 1st. I dreamt of Mark again. He was laughing, holding that ugly guitar he never learned to play. I cried when I woke up, not from pain, just from missing him. Another entry, 2005, October 3rd. I saw a boy on the street today, homeless, probably 14th. Reminded me of me. I gave him all I had, $40 and my gloves. It wasn't enough. And then, 2017, June 19th, first time at Lucy's diner. She refilled my coffee 3 times, asked my name, called me sir. I don't think anyone's called me that in years. Lucy covered her mouth, heart pounding. He had been writing about her. 2019, May 4th. She left a flower in my napkin holder. Just a daisy. I cried in the parking lot. I hope she never sees that. Tears blurred the ink. Page after page. He detailed their conversations, her kindness, the way she never judged him. And then, a new revelation. 2021, August 14th. She reminded me of my sister. I never told her about Anna. She died in 1983, hit and run. I was overseas, couldn't even attend the funeral. Lucy's hands trembled. He hadn't just seen her as kind. He saw her as family. And in the next entry, 2022, January 3rd. I changed my will today. She doesn't know what she's given me. Peace, purpose. Maybe this land can give her something back. Behind the cabin, Marcus led her down a stone path to a small wooden bench under a tree. Beside it was a brass plaque, recently installed. William Carson, SEAL Team 6, 1952 to 2023. Not all warriors die in battle. Some find peace instead. Lucy knelt beside the grave and whispered, "Thank you, William." A wind gust brushed her hair, soft, warm, almost intentional. Lucy didn't sell the land. Instead, she returned with help. Veterans, volunteers, and even customers from the diner. Together, they restored the cabin and built 3 more small homes across the property. They called it Carson's Rest, a sanctuary for homeless veterans, a place where no one would be forgotten, where pain was welcomed and healing began. Months later, back at the diner, the framed photo of William Carson had new additions: a dog tag from Lieutenant Talbot, a guest book filled with thank you notes from veterans across the country, and a gold plaque that read, "In memory of the quiet ones who gave more than we'll ever know." Lucy still served coffee every morning, still smiled. But now, when someone asked about the empty booth in the corner, she didn't say he used to sit there. She said, he still does. It started with a phone call. Lucy was at Carson's Rest, helping a veteran unpack when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something told her to answer. "Is this Lucy Daniels?" "Yes. Who's calling?" "This is Commander Alan Wolfe, Pentagon Liaison to Veteran Affairs. I'm calling regarding William Carson." Her stomach tightened. Later that week, She was flown, first class, to Washington, D.C. A black SUV picked her up and took her straight to the Pentagon. In a large, high-security briefing room, 3 senior officers and a civilian in a suit were already seated. On the table sat a red folder. "Miss Daniels," the civilian said, "what we're about to show you is classified." But Mr. Carson made specific posthumous requests. "You're part of those requests." He opened the folder. Inside were photographs, declassified mission reports, and transcripts. Lucy scanned them, her eyes widening with every page. William Carson hadn't just been a Navy SEAL. He'd been part of Operation Ember Wolf, a Black Ops mission so dangerous only 5 men survived, and only 2 made it back home. One of them was William. The other was Lieutenant Mark Talbot. The mission had saved hundreds of lives, but it came at a cost. They were sworn to silence. No medals, no parades, just ghosts and memories. But before his death, William had petitioned the Department of Defense. He wanted the mission declassified, not for himself, but to recognize the man who died saving him. Lieutenant Mark Talbot, the same man whose dog tags Lucy had found folded in a napkin. He always blamed himself for Talbot's death, the officer said, but he never told anyone. Until you. That's why he never spent his money, why he never smiled, why he sat in silence, day after day. He was waiting for permission to forgive himself. 2 months later, Lucy stood on the steps of the Capitol as CBS News, CNN, and Fox broadcast live. Behind her stood Marcus and 2 other SEALs, all in full uniform. The Secretary of Defense stepped forward. "Today, we recognize the quiet heroism of William Carson, a man who lived not for glory, but for honor, who died not alone, but in peace, because someone saw him and listened." He handed Lucy a velvet box. Inside, a Medal of Honor, awarded posthumously. The crowd rose to their feet. Cameras flashed. Lucy's hands trembled. But there was one more thing. The secretary handed her a sealed envelope, handwritten, faded, with her name on it. Inside was a note from William. "Lucy, if you're reading this, I finally did it. I told the truth, and I forgave myself. Thank you for the daisy, for the coffee, for letting an old ghost feel human again. This world forgets people like me, but you didn't. Now I want the world to never forget you either." At the bottom, in shaky letters, he wrote, "You saved me, Lucy. Now go save others." After the ceremony, donations poured into Carson's rest. Within a year, they opened 3 more shelters in William's name. Veterans found work, addicts found hope, families found fathers again. And every morning, Lucy still brewed coffee at the original diner, still leaving a booth open. For the quiet ones, for the forgotten, for the heroes in disguise. If this story moved you, share it. There are veterans right now who feel invisible. And sometimes it only takes one person's kindness to remind them, you are seen, you are valued, you are not forgotten. Subscribe for more real, powerful stories. Comment, "Never forgotten," if this story touched your heart. And please, share this video with someone who needs it.